Hello and welcome. Thank you for participating in Morehead at Home Skywatching, hosted by Morehead Planetarium and Science Center. My name is Amy Sale. I'm an educator at Morehead. We are a unit of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, located on campus. We also work throughout the state through a number of outreach initiatives like our mobile lab van, summer camp programs, and the annual North Carolina Science Festival. Our mission is to help people better understand science, technology, and health, and we do this through engaging learning opportunities like this live virtual event. We're happy to have you here for our program on Mission to Mars, and Nick will start us off.
Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to Morehead at Home Skywatching. We've had an exciting morning, and maybe you have too. If you were with us on Tuesday, or if you have been following the news in general, you might know that we launched a spacecraft from Florida here in the United States headed towards Mars. The Perseverance rover on an Atlas V rocket launched at 7:50 a.m. this morning. So today what we're going to do is talk about Mars in general, and maybe a little more in depth than we did on Tuesday. Tuesday, we focused a lot on the Perseverance rover itself. But today we're going to talk about Perseverance and other Mars missions that have launched recently and some other things that we know about Mars and what we've learned. So first things first, though, we wanted to see if you watched the launch this morning. So we have a poll question that is coming up there for you. If this is your first time with us in one of these sessions, we like to ask you questions sometimes. So, you give us your honest answer on this. And we like it when you ask us questions as well. So throughout the program, if you want to, feel free to use the Q&A box that's at the bottom of your screen there. If you're on your phone, it's at the top of your screen. And that way you can type in questions to us, and we will take some time towards the end of the program to discuss those with you. But I'm curious to see.
Oh, wow. Even split. Yeah. So Nick, I know you watched the launch.
I did. It was early. I know we have a lot of early risers that are watching with us, even some folks that might not be in our time zone who got up super early to see it. But 7:50 a.m. was the launch time. It launched on time. It was beautiful. And I think as Amy maybe tells us a little bit about this, I can show you all my favorite image that was taken this morning.
Someone captured this from a Cessna. And you can see the Atlas V rocket launched, and it's got the Perseverance rover on it. And Nick, have you kept up? Last I heard, they were doing a couple of engine burns to get it into the right path to go to Mars, and it won't get there until February 18th, 2021. Takes a long time to get to Mars. Mars is millions of miles away. It's a long journey.
Yeah, everything seems good right now. We encourage y'all to kind of follow along. The bumpiest part of the ride is over. That's the very beginning, getting out of Earth's atmosphere. And now we wait. We're going to check in on this cool spacecraft, throughout its journey. And I know that the Deep Space Network, particularly some of the instruments in Canberra, Australia, got signals from Perseverance. So they're talking to the scientists. Or the spacecraft is talking to the scientists, and that's good news. That means we're ready to see where it goes and how it gets there.
And do we have an image of the rover that we can show people? And this is an artist's illustration. The rover is not actually on Mars yet, of course. And you can see the rover. It's like roughly the size of a car. It's very similar to the Curiosity rover, but it's going to do some different things. And you can also see in the foreground, it's got a helicopter that weighs just a few pounds. The helicopter is named Ingenuity, and it's going to be a test of the first powered flight on Mars. And what this mission is going to do is search for signs of ancient life. So small forms of life, microbial life, did it exist in the past? And so it's got some scientific instruments on board to help answer that question. It's also going to has an instrument called MOXIE that's going to be a test of extracting oxygen from the Martian atmosphere, which is largely carbon dioxide. And that's important for preparing for the possibility of humans going there in the future. And it's also going to be collecting rock samples and storing them for later retrieval by another mission and bringing them back to Earth so we can analyze them really carefully. So lots of exciting stuff. But Nick, this wasn't the only mission to Mars that was launched in recent days, as it turns out.
It wasn't. We're really excited about Perseverance. I mean, if robots collecting rocks on Mars and potentially bringing them home doesn't get you excited, I don't know what does. But there are other missions as well. So, NASA and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory were in charge of this rover. But you might have heard even within the last 10 days, there were two other launches to Mars, and they were firsts in a couple of ways. So the UAE space agency from the United Arab Emirates made a really cool orbiter that launched, what was it, about the 20th of July. Its name is Hope, which I think is a name that we can all kind of, connect with right now. We need a little hope. And it's a really neat mission that's going to go study, in particular, the atmosphere of Mars. And it's the first Arab mission to be launched. So that's a really exciting first. And we're going to be tracking Hope's progress as it heads towards Mars too. It's also planning on getting there in February. That's the plan right now. So along with some of these landers like Perseverance, we're going to have eyes in the skies of Mars to help us.
Yeah, it'll be joining 6 other orbiters at Mars. And I was listening to one of the interviews with the scientists, the UAE scientists, and she was saying that one of the goals was also to inspire people in that region to pursue careers in science, engineering, and math too.
Yeah, and we love that. We're big fans of NASA, but people all over the world are working hard to get these cool scientific instruments into space, and I think it is very inspiring. So on that note, there's also another launch that happened on the 23rd of July. China, the CNSA, launched the Tianhua-1 orbiter and rover. This is actually kind of like a 2-in-1 mission. It's the name translates to questioning the heavens, which I think is kind of cool. That's the purpose of this astronomical observation is to question and learn more. So we put up the diagrams here of what some of these instruments do, like Perseverance and Hope. We're going to have an orbiter like Hope and a rover like Perseverance that are going to give us even more data about the red planet. So just within the last 10 days now, we've had 3 different nations launch 3 different sets of spacecraft to head to Mars, because as we mentioned on Tuesday, right now is a pretty good time to launch spacecraft to Mars because of the way that Earth and Mars are lined up in their orbits. So it's a good window of time to be able to get something there quickly and efficiently and safely.
Yeah, so there was another mission that was actually planned. The European Space Agency was planning to send a rover, Rosalind Franklin, the name of the rover, to search for signs of life and drill down a couple of meters and collect underground samples. There's also a Russian platform that's part of that mission. They had to delay that mission in part because of the pandemic. And so, as Nick mentioned, opportunities to launch to Mars efficiently don't come around every day. So they have now delayed the mission till the year 2022. So we'll look forward to that. Okay, I think we're looking at Mars right now.
Yeah, this is not a live look at Mars, unfortunately, but it's a really cool image. You probably see a lot of detail there on the surface, and I think we want to talk a little bit about the purpose of these missions. They each have their individual goals, but we see, in doing our research and just generally the ideas about what the purpose is, that there is a connecting factor when we talk about all of these missions to Mars. And it has to do with ultimately looking for life. Mostly we're talking about past life when we think about finding life on Mars. I know it's exciting to think about finding little green men or something like that, but that's not quite what the scientists expect. We want to study it further to get more evidence that maybe it was a more habitable place in the past, or maybe underground now there are certain types of life that exist there. We don't know, but those are the big questions we want to answer.
Yeah, so as you look at it, it doesn't look like a very hospitable place for life today. It's basically a cold desert. But in the past, there's good evidence it used to have water, and it's been a long time interest in terms of exploration. Way back in 1877, there was an Italian astronomer, Schiaparelli, who observed Mars and began to make a map of it. And we may have the map one of our images. And he described what he called canali, which means channels, but it appears that it got mistranslated in English as canals. And that might not sound like a big difference, channels versus canals. But when you say canal, people start to think about intelligent beings making canals rather than it being a natural process. And so there was one man in particular, Percival Lowell, who was a wealthy man, who started the Lowell Observatory in the late 1800s in Flagstaff, Arizona, because he became possessed with this notion that maybe there were intelligent Martians that were running out of water, and they needed to build these irrigation canals to carry the water from the polar regions where they're actually there are ice caps down to the equatorial regions. We've never found any Martians, never actually found any canals, anything built by intelligent beings. Turns out it was sort of more of an optical illusion what they were seeing. Human brain, we love to see patterns even if there's nothing real there. And however, I do want to mention Percival Lowell, his observatory, that is where they discovered Pluto. So he did some good work by building that observatory. But the planet, is similar to Earth in some important ways. It's another rocky planet. It's got polar ice caps, clouds in its atmosphere. Mars goes through seasons, has seasonal weather patterns. It's tilted on its axis like Earth is. It has canyons, volcanoes. And in the distant past, it was more similar to Earth in that we think it was warmer and wetter and had a thicker atmosphere. And the water part's important because wherever you see water on Earth, you see life. And so it's possible that there was life. The Curiosity rover, for example, found that Mars was habitable in the past. And it is possible that life formed a very long time ago on Mars, small forms of life, microbes. And so some of what these current missions are trying to do is look for signs of that ancient life. And so like Perseverance, for example, is landing in an area called Jezero Crater where there was an ancient lake and is going to look for ancient life. The Chinese rover as well is going to be using radar to looking for liquid water under the surface. Okay, Nick, I don't know if you want to say anything more about that or if we need to move on to finding out what people watching might know about Mars.
Yeah, we're curious. I think everything you said is fantastic. I think a lot of us wish we had a time machine to see what Mars was like 100,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago. And we don't have a time machine in that sense. But, these scientific instruments, they kind of serve as our time machine. When you're digging holes and studying the geology, when you're studying the atmosphere, we get signatures, we get ideas about how things did look in the past. So there's a lot of value in peering into the past to find out more about this world. So I agree. I think finding more water there would be a big deal. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about what y'all might know about Mars because, we can get into some of the scientific detail of its size and its gravity and things like that. But we're curious if you know how big it is. So we have a comparison here on the screen for you, which is bigger, Mars or Earth's moon. So you see your options there. Give us your best guess, and then we can maybe help you out.
Yeah, so do you think Mars is bigger? Do you think Earth's moon is bigger? Or do you think, maybe they're about the same size? And let us know. And we will say Mars is smaller than Earth. And we'll say that Earth's moon is smaller than Earth. But what about the comparison between the two? What do y'all think? No cheating, no getting on the internet. Just take your best guess. Okay, we got Mars. About 2/3 of people said Mars is bigger than Earth's moon. A few said maybe about the same. What do you think, Nick?
I think it's a little bigger than the Earth's moon, and we can even have a cool comparison here. So, of course, these images of Earth, Mars, and the moon don't have any, surface details on them, but they are showing you a size comparison and the comparison of diameter, I think that is.
Yeah, so Mars about half the diameter of Earth, although you could actually put 6 of Mars inside Earth volume-wise. So Mars is actually quite a bit bigger, roughly twice the diameter of Earth's moon.
Yeah, so a size comparison always really helps us to connect with these things that are really big compared to us as human beings, but do have significant differences. So another difference that you might think about if you were on Mars is it's gravity. We know that the gravity here on Earth pulls us towards the center of the Earth. It keeps us down here on the ground. Mars does have gravity, but it affects how much you would weigh if you were to weigh yourself on Mars. So we have another question for you here. And this is, might take a little bit of math, but, we like to get your brains working in the morning. If you weighed 100 pounds on Earth, how much would you weigh on Mars? Your options are 138 pounds, 100 pounds, which is the same, 38 pounds, or 0 pounds. Would you be weightless?
Yeah. So yeah, would you, if you took a scale to Mars, would you weigh more? Or would it be like a weight loss diet just by traveling there? Or would you just weigh the same? Or maybe would you weigh nothing? Would you float? Okay.
Let's see.
See what you all say. Most people got it. 38 pounds. Be a pretty serious weight loss diet. Yep. Might make jumping around pretty easy even in your spacesuit.
Yeah, so, when astronauts train to potentially go to Mars in the future, they're going to have to consider these things. And that's one of the really neat things about sending rovers and sending orbiters is that these are our eyes and ears in a way to prepare for future missions to Mars. Part of NASA's plan, at least, is, to send humans back to the moon and then eventually to Mars. So, we say within a few decades, this could be a real reality. But there are challenges in getting there. Just distance wise, and we really have to make sure that Mars can be safe for our astronauts. One cool thing about Perseverance is it's actually has samples of astronaut suit material on it, so they're gonna potentially return those and test them and help us make spacesuits for astronauts that could potentially go to Mars in the future. So I just think that's pretty neat. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an idea about the planet Mars itself. We wanted to do one more thing for you here today because I know it's kind of a bummer we have to wait till February to really see these missions land on Mars or get into orbit around Mars. But there is something we can task you with doing tonight, which is finding Mars in the nighttime sky. So we're sky watchers. We love to look up at our real sky. And we always want to give you all the skills to be able to do that as well. And if it's clear tonight, you can find the red planet. And we're going to help you do it by showing our program called Stellarium. It's a free and open source program that you can download yourselves. You see we dropped a link in the chat there for you. It's kind of like a flat screen planetarium. It's a way we look up at the sky. And I'll go ahead and share for you so that you can see what I mean. So this is our sky from somewhere like Chapel Hill, North Carolina, here at a little past 10:15 a.m. And if you've joining us for the first time, this might look really weird to you. So let me describe what we're seeing. We're seeing the ground here. We're seeing the sky up here, and the horizon is the place where the sky meets the ground. That's our line kind of traveling around this way. And along the horizon, you probably also see some big red letters. So that's not something you'd see in the real sky. We have a W for west, SW for southwest here. Right in front of us tonight is south, southeast, and east. Now, this is just a view we've chosen because it's actually going to help us find Mars tonight. But, your view would be different depending on which way you're facing, and it could be different depending on where you are. So if you're at a latitude like we are here in North Carolina, you're going to see a similar sky to this. But if you're significantly north of here or south of here, your sky might vary a little bit.
And when we say significantly north or south, we mean like more than a few miles. That even if it's not going to be radically different, even if you're watching from New York or Maine or Oregon. And it'll be the same if you're watching from a number of states in the U.S.
But you might notice we're in the daytime. You can't
see
Mars in the daytime.
I don't think we're going to see Mars in the daytime.
So we're going to do a little bit of time travel ourselves. You might notice we have a clock down here at the bottom of the screen. Keep your eye on that because I'm going to go ahead and move us forward. You do see our star, the sun, up there in the sky. So that's kind of a helpful indicator that it's daytime, but we're speeding up the clock. And it looks a lot like the sun's moving across the sky, but always remember really what's moving is our Earth. We are rotating on our axis, which means where we are here in North Carolina, it's almost like we're spinning away from facing the sun. So as it gets later and later, eventually we're going to see the sun in this view dip behind a tree, but really it'll approach the horizon as we have a sunset, and really we're the ones that are turning. You might have seen the moon rise. Oh, we even have some fun meteors labeled here. That's not necessary. So the early does have a couple of cool things though, right, Amy?
Yeah, and you might notice, by the way, the moon actually rises before the sun sets today. So if it's clear where you are, take a look. It's going to be rising roughly 5:15 p.m. It's waxing gibbous, which means it rises before the sun sets. But it'll still be up for a while after the sun sets. And Nick, I see a couple of planets, although it doesn't look like Mars is one of them.
Yeah, no Mars yet, but we do encourage y'all to go out in the early evening if you have a nice clear view and you can do it safely, because Jupiter and Saturn are going to be beautiful. They won't have these nice labels for you, unfortunately.
No, I have looked, Nick, for these labels and these red letters on the horizon. I have never seen them.
I know, it would be so helpful. Maybe someday we'll have cool VR, technology that can do it. But so they are going to be pretty bright though. So I think you should be able to tell the difference between these planets and the surrounding stars. But there is one trick that we often use to tell the difference, and it's to remember a nursery rhyme that you might know, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. You can sing it to yourself right now if you so please. There's not a second verse that says Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Planet. And that's because to our eyes, stars often appear to twinkle or flicker in the sky, and planets generally shine steadily. So if you find something bright in the sky and it's not twinkling and it's in the southeast tonight from this view, you're very likely looking at a planet. And in this case, Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter will be the brighter of the two planets. And if you had a telescope, you could get a lot of detail of these things. I know we're talking about Mars, but I can't help myself. You can zoom in and, see a nice view of the gas giant Jupiter. You'd have to have a pretty powerful telescope to have a view like this. And if you had a scope in your backyard, you could see Saturn and its beautiful rings. Now, I think there are some really neat connections between Perseverance and these other planets. Namely, the one that comes to mind is the Ingenuity helicopter that's traveling up on with Perseverance. It's going to be a cool powered flight test of that helicopter, but NASA's planning on sending a spacecraft that's kind of like a helicopter to Saturn's largest moon, Titan. It's going to be called Dragonfly. So in the coming years, you'll probably hear more and more about that. These planetary science missions often help each other a lot. But what do you think, Amy? Should we stay up later?
I think we should. I think people might be very unhappy if we didn't show them how to find Mars. Yeah. So if you would like to see Mars tonight, well, first of all, we'd like to know, have you ever seen Mars in the night sky? Yes, no, or maybe you're not sure. We're about to show it to you in the planetarium sky, but what we're asking you in the poll question is, have you ever seen it in the real night sky? Mars, if you just looked at your screen, it just popped up in the east, and you might even notice it has a little bit of a red tint to it. It is called the red planet for a reason, and it is rising roughly just before midnight tonight, and it's rising earlier and earlier. So if you're not a midnight kind of person, just wait a few weeks and it'll get more reasonable as time goes on. And oh, we've got a fairly even split. Nearly half of people report that they have seen Mars. A bunch say no, though. About 30 people say no, and some aren't sure. Okay, well, this summer's a good time to look, and you can think about those spacecraft. 3 spacecraft headed there right now.
And same rules apply as when we were talking about Jupiter and Saturn. It should be fairly bright, and it should not be twinkling. Unless it's really close to that horizon over there. So if you can, stay up pretty late tonight, you can get a good glimpse of it. What do you think, Amy? Should we zoom in on it?
I think we definitely should see what Stellarium has to show us. Oh, beautiful. And then I see, Nick, I see a couple of interesting things nearby.
Yeah, what are those?
Kind of to the right of the screen. looks like Mars has moons, Phobos and Deimos. The names translate to fear and dread, or sometimes you'll hear fear and panic. And the names come to us from Greek mythology, and they may be captured asteroids. They're not very big. Phobos is actually heading in towards the planet, and in millions of years will either get ripped apart or and actually may create a new ring around Mars, or just sort of crash and burn. And if you were on Phobos and you were facing Mars, you would actually see Mars take up a large part of the sky. It would be really dramatic.
Yeah, some of this always feels so sci-fi to me, but really, that means I guess sci-fi did a pretty good job. These old sci-fi movies did a pretty good job because this stuff really can provide some magnificent views for you. Maybe one day we'll be there and we'll get to see Mars taking up a big chunk of our sky. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Okay. So look for Mars to rise in the sky in the east before midnight. Easier to see if you look after midnight, or if you're the kind of person who likes to get up crazy early in the morning while it's still dark, before the sun's light starts to wash out our view of the night sky, you could see Mars then too, and it would be actually well placed in the sky. So it looks like, Nick, you're going to take us. Oh, you also get to pick up Venus. Venus is crazy bright. And a little glimpse of Mercury. So what time do we have now when Mars is nice and high in the sky?
This is just before the sunrise. This is about 5:35 a.m.
Okay, so you can try for it. It might be hard to pick it out of the brightening twilight sky. But if you're a 5 a.m. kind of person, you might give it a shot and see Mars then. So you can either go out like around midnight and see it rising in the east, or you could wait a few hours if that's easier for you.
Great. Well, hopefully that's given you some tools. I hope you're excited about this launch. We're still super excited about it. And, we have to wait till February to start seeing the next phase of this. But in the meantime, maybe you can find Mars yourself in the sky. So with the rest of our few minutes that we have left, we want to try to answer some of your questions.
And we have one final question for you. It would really help us out if you can let us know how many people are watching right now on your screen. And while you all are answering that, Nick and I will be going through your questions, trying to answer as many as we can. We've got I see that the last question that just came in, is our moon bigger than both of Mars's moons? Is it bigger than both of them combined? Yes, the Martian moons are actually quite small, and our moon way bigger than both of them. Great question.
Ooh, I see a good one. Does Mars have ice? Yes, and that's one of the things that gets the scientists on these missions really excited. Now, when you see the ice caps of Mars, we think that those ice caps are made mostly out of not water ice, but carbon dioxide ice, what we would call dry ice. But we think there's a mixture. We think that the ice caps are likely made of both types, and that's one of the ideas that we have, is that maybe there is some ice below the surface, or places that we can find evidence of ice in the past, and things like that. So yes, and that's exciting because of all that information Amy mentioned about why water is important.
Okay, and I see another, we had a request from someone to put the link we talked about on Tuesday, how you can send your name to Mars on the next Mars mission. So like, for example, I sent my name on Perseverance and also on the InSight lander as well. And they like etched it in really small and they put it on this plate outside the rover. So it's like my name and millions of other names too. Well, you can do this. And so we've got a link in the chat to add your name to the next Mars mission. And it's just a really fun thing. I highly recommend going in there and doing that. I think you can even print out a boarding pass, and it'll talk about frequent flyer miles, and it's just really fun.
Yeah, it's such a neat way to connect with these things, because they're robots, they're flying really far away, but you can be a part of it. I see a question from Miles that I like. Is the Curiosity rover still functioning? And if so, will it work in conjunction with Perseverance? That's a really good question, because yes, Curiosity is still on Mars. It's still running its science experiments. And even though it's really similar to Perseverance, they're going to be kind of using their data that they collect to answer some of the same types of questions. I guess that's a long way of saying yes. Curiosity's still there. It's still working. Its mission is still happening. And together, the information we get from both of these rovers will help us paint a better picture of Mars.
And Nick, the very first question that got typed in built on that perfectly. The question is, if Perseverance is looking for ancient life, what did Curiosity do? Well, Curiosity is still working, as Nick mentioned. It's been there since 2012. And some of the things that it's found includes that it's found evidence that there was persistent liquid water on Mars in the past, including rivers and lakes in the area where it landed called Gale Crater that persisted for 1 million years or more. It also found that ancient Mars, so Mars in the past, had the right chemistry to support life. So it found out that Mars was habitable in the past. So now Perseverance is going to go look for actual signs that there may have been life in the past. Also, Curiosity found methane in the atmosphere, which is interesting because it's not the only spacecraft, by the way, studying methane in the atmosphere. But methane is interesting because it can be produced by living organisms, but it can also be produced by other mechanisms as well. They don't have anything to do with life, but that's still very interesting. Okay, these are great questions. Nick, I think we're out of time.
Yeah, well, we love that you guys gave us so many questions today. We will be back with you on Tuesday, but we wanted to tell you for the month of August, we're actually only going to be doing these Morehead at Home sessions on Tuesday. For the past few months, we've been doing them on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but we're going to be doing one a week on Tuesdays, still at 10 a.m. for you. And we have some exciting topics upcoming, including meteor showers and the International Space Station and Carolina skies for August, all sorts of cool things. But for those of you that join us very frequently, we want to let you know it's just going to be one a week for August. But with that, we're so excited that you joined us today. I hope this, really made your morning of Mars really exciting. We appreciate all of your questions. If you want to know more about what Morehead is doing and want more information about these missions, please follow the links that we put in the chat, but also look at our website, which is www.moreheadplanetarium.org. We're also on all of the social medias, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our YouTube channel is a great resource because that's where these Morehead at Home sessions are recorded and posted later. And you can even take some time to watch a 360 Planetarium show on there. So we're hoping that, by the time these things land in February, we might be able to see you on campus. But in the meantime, we're still really happy to talk to you here. So we hope you have a great rest of your day. Let me see if I can share one last thing with y'all, our social media links here. And we'll let you sign off. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to put up one more slide and hope you have a great rest of your day.
We'll see you next Tuesday.